Broadcasting from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, it's time for Executive Perspective. Executive Perspective is brought to you by Cressa, going beyond space to foster the best environment for every business. Now, here's your host, Danny Vander Maten.
Hello, and welcome to Executive Perspective, a podcast series brought to you by Cressa, the world's largest company exclusively dedicated to representing occupiers of commercial real estate. Cressa, we are passionate about helping businesses optimize their real estate by addressing critical facets of their operations, including, but not limited to, these three critical L's: labor, logistics, and location. Cressa, we understand the value of business relationships, and that's why we decided to do this podcast series, where we get to sit down with business leaders and learn more about their perspective. My name is Danny Vander Maten, and I'm a Senior Vice President here in the Atlanta office of Cressa and proud host of this show, Executive Perspective. Today, I want to welcome Chris Martin, Senior Vice President of Global Operations at Veritiv Corporation. If you're not familiar with Veritiv, they're a business-to-business packaging, facility solutions, and fine print distribution company, and they're based in Sandy Springs in Atlanta with 90-plus distribution centers across North America. Chris, how are you feeling today?
Feeling great, Danny. How about you?
I'm feeling really good about this. I'm fresh off vacation.
Nice.
So I've got mentally a clean slate right now, and you know what that feels like to operate from. So ask me in the middle of next week. Different answer. But thank you so much for coming on here and giving a little background of you pre-Veritiv. You're originally from Ohio.
I am. I'm the proud southwest side of it, Cincinnati, Ohio, specifically.
Cincinnati, Ohio, the Buckeye State. And you went to Miami of Ohio.
The Miami University, as we like to refer to it.
That's right. That's right. Not to be confused with the one in South Florida.
That's right. That's the University of. We like the.
Yeah.
We were a university before they were a state, but whatever. Not a big deal. Yeah.
It's really funny. I wasn't going to even think to bring this up, but when I was looking at where I wanted to go to school, there were all these rankings and lists of universities, and there was one that listed universities that had some of the prettiest undergrad population. And I'm not kidding you, Miami of Ohio. I remember that, like, at first I thought, okay, Miami, but then it said of Ohio. That might have been the first time I ever heard of Miami of Ohio. But anyways, we digress.
No, it's funny that you say that because it was, I also married my college sweetheart from Miami. So
that's proof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's proof of it that she clearly took a step down for me to take a step up. But it was true by any of those rankings during that time. It was a lot of fun to go there and a lot of great people for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. And so for 4 years, you served in the U.S. Navy and you left as lieutenant. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you were in San Diego.
I was actually, my first ship was out of Norfolk, Virginia. And then my second ship was in San Diego. So when I got off active duty from the Navy, it was from San Diego back to Cincinnati. And yeah, very proud part of my background. I did Navy ROTC to help pay for undergrad college at that great university, Miami University. But you quickly, as you get into those programs, you have to find other motivation to do that. And I was very proud to serve. It was an inflection point in my life as well as my career to see the world and learn from a lot of really great sailors, or a lot of really great leaders, and got a lot of great leadership lessons that have really served me throughout my career, both examples of failure as well as success. And it's something I'm very proud of and very humbled to have been a part of.
Awesome. That's awesome. And prior to Veritiv, after the Navy, or before, you can correct me, you had various roles with Deloitte Consulting and Aldi. Is that right?
That's right. So I coming out of college, coming out of Miami University, you graduate, you get commissioned as an officer that day. You go straight to your first ship. And so that's what I did for the first 4 years, did those 2 ship tours. Decided, my wife and I, we got married on our way to our second ship in San Diego, decided we wanted to raise a family someday and that moving around might be a little bit of a hurdle to that. Not that it's not something people could do, not something we could have done. We just leaned on the fence to that side to get out and moved back from beautiful San Diego to Cincinnati, Ohio. So I always tell people that might be an indication of my IQ, but Cincinnati's home with a capital H for us. So we were proud to, and moved back. And as I did that, I came to work for Aldi. It was an interesting transition because I had majored in political science at Miami. I was thinking I was going to be Tom Cruise and fly in the Navy, get out in 25 years.
I had that dream once.
Yeah, we all did.
I didn't go as far as you did.
Yeah.
I had that dream.
I got all the way through to my senior year thinking that I was going to fly and planning on flying, and then found out my right eye was just bad enough that I would have had to get a surgery to be able to fly and go to flight school. And so I took that as a lot of deep thinking, deep thought that, you know what, maybe I'm supposed to go ships instead. So I was a surface warfare officer, learned a lot in that role, but all of a sudden found myself out 4 years later with a political science degree and with Navy experience that is fantastic, but sometimes doesn't always translate into business world, business role. I thought that I was going to fly for 25 years and get out and teach high school and coach soccer. So now I found myself in a different spot, but had the opportunity through a recruiting company that transitions military officers into the business community, and had a couple interviews set up with various medical device companies, pharmaceutical sales companies, and Aldi was on the list. And I was really excited about the interview because it was something I could actually translate my skills that I had and experience that I had in the Navy. Yep. In sales positions, maybe you're talking about, hey, I can learn fast, I can engage a relationship meaningfully quickly. But in this case, it was Aldi was, you're running a district, you're running 4 or 5 stores, and you get to manage all aspects of that and work with great people. And those store managers are a lot like chiefs in the Navy. So I was excited about that interview because I could explain and translate my experience to that. And so it worked out. And also found out we were pregnant with our first daughter a little ahead of schedule. So it was a good time to have a job to come back to. Yeah. But I did that at Aldi for about just under 2 years, I believe, after the Navy. Okay. And then went from there to Deloitte Consulting, and that was another inflection point, I'll say, in my career, not just the people I got to work with, but some of the skills and the companies and organizations that I got to observe and work with.
That's awesome. And you brought up one of my last points about your background. Proud husband, but exemplary dad of 3 daughters, ages 14, 12, and 10. Girl dad through and through, and you're proud of it. And I love that about you.
Very much proud of it. I don't know if I've earned the exemplary part of that, but very, very much a proud girl dad, a proud husband of, like I said, married way up. And Eric is an amazing partner, and I always say our ace up our sleeve in raising these 3 amazing world changers.
It takes a partnership.
Very much so.
Really does. Very much. More about Veritiv. What more can you tell us about what Veritiv does, and in that, what a day looks like for you?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I'm very proud to represent Veritiv too. Veritiv's as you said, a business-to-business packaging solutions provider. We also provide janitorial and sanitation products, and as well as commercial print solutions. And we've born and grown out of various distribution businesses, various owned by manufacturers as well over time. But what we've grown into is a true innovative specialty packaging distribution provider, where we are able to source solutions, design solutions, everything from design to delivery of a solution where you have something you need to protect in your supply chain, either your product or to ship it in bulk across your supply chain. We've got solutions for you. We can go design something around that can be innovative and more sustainable than what you have today. We can buy it in bulk and in a more strategic way that can allow us to leverage our network to provide better costs for the business for the customers. And then we also have a world-class, service that we deliver to those customers on a just-in-time basis, whether that's next day, next 3 days, next week, whatever that is, but we can do it in ways in the sizes that they need.
So without getting just too specific and into the minutia, if I were a company and I needed a solution that Veritiv delivered, how would I engage Veritiv, and how would Veritiv approach that project?
Absolutely. So we do have an outside sales team that is aggressively looking at those opportunities and driving those, and we'll show up and talk to you first, hopefully. But we do have a website. We come to veritiv.com, and you can find the solutions and what we provide, and easy way to get in contact with us as well. And we'll get one of those world-class professional reps, sales reps, in touch with you to figure out what your needs are and what the opportunities are and how we can help provide that.
Okay. And just using by way of an example of something that you've overseen or you've been a part of that you've done for one of your really large clients, what would that project look like? You guys come in and you get to know the company. You get to know what their needs are. You get to know what special facets that their product requires in order to be shipped. And then where does it go?
Yeah, so we come in with a team. We'll do site audits and walk around and really listen to what are your pain points? What are you looking for? We'll walk around. We oftentimes see opportunities within facilities. We call them facility audits, to walk around and just observe how you're wrapping product, how you're storing product, how you're cleaning the bathrooms and the service areas of your warehouse or of your manufacturing operation. And we'll come up with those solutions and come up with a list and say, hey, based on those high points, we can go find some solutions and bring it back to you And we've got, the other thing is we have a team of specialists that we can also bring in. So even at that sales rep, it's not just that sales rep, it's an army of people and specialists behind them, whether it's automation equipment. A lot of times people, we're all facing the same challenges in the market with labor and finding sustainable methods to continue our operations. And we can provide and source automation solutions for you to get your product across even just within your warehouse and your operation to get it where it needs to go. All the way down to the type of stretch film you use. You're spending a lot on that. We can help you find a better gauge that's got better strength to it, but also possibly a more sustainable solution for you. So we've got a team of an army behind the reps that come in that really allows us to be very effective and get deep in with customers into multiple facets of their business.
And it sounds like every company that you work with probably has something uniquely different about what they need.
Very much. Not only do we have a variety of different customers within each, we have across verticals, across industry verticals, whether it's healthcare providers, whether it's heavy manufacturers, light manufacturers. There's a lot of big names, and it allows us to have a more diversified approach to our business, which is, it was great for our business, but it really allows us to provide solutions to a variety of different customers and industry verticals.
So how does Veritiv, and you in your role, how do you ensure efficient supply chain planning and inventory management across the vast operation of your business and your customers' businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I know I didn't mean to evade the question. You said, what's your typical day like? But
no.
My role is I have the opportunity and the honor of being able to lead our global operations team, which includes our supply chain planning team. So the inventory managers, the buyers, as well as the full operations suite. So it's 90 plus distribution centers you talked about. So we have all of our warehouse managers, our handlers, our drivers that are touching customers every day, right? At Veritiv, we talk about, we have two types of employees, those who interact directly with the customer and those who support those who interact directly with the customer. Uh-huh. So obviously the sales teams and the customer experience teams are a part of that, but so our drivers are as well, right? They're often interacting on a more regular basis with the customers than anybody else is within the business. So it's a great opportunity to find different solutions and be innovative. And in our case, we're always trying to innovate those solutions so that we can be more data-driven. We can be more efficient with how we're operating. That's a big thing that we provide back to the business, is that cost to serve and continuing to find ways to provide an unbelievable customer experience, but also do it in ways that we can sustain and continue to manage the cost of that business on both sides. So we look at a lot of different models of how we're buying, who we buy from vendors, where we buy from vendors, how we get it to the customers, and really starting from where the customer's location is and knowing that we have a deep reach across the country and we're a national provider who can do that. There's a lot of regional competitors who can do that on a regional basis, but we can provide that national service and that consistency across those locations.
So you guys, first of all, am I right in my number of 90 plus distribution centers? Right. Where was that number when you came on board, and what's it been like growing?
Yeah, we were north of 150, even as recently as 2016, we had 130 locations. Okay. And we've looked at, not just in an effort to reduce costs, but we've looked at our service model, our service radius. We have an opportunity we were two big companies that came together, Expedex and Unisource came together to form Veritiv back in 2014. We actually just celebrated our 10th anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Earlier this month. Yeah, we're really proud of that. But so obviously, whenever you do that, you've got a lot of situations where you've got two locations that are right across the street from each other. So we were opportunistic about that. But then we also went and looked at our footprint, and it happened to coincide with the pandemic of when we were stepping off to really execute that, to say we can reach further from our facilities than we have historically. We don't need to be within 50 miles of everything. We can be within 150 to 300 miles and really still provide a great service. So there's been a lot of deep analysis as well as execution excellence that we've really prided ourselves on, to be able to do that and not have any disruption of the customers throughout that.
That's impressive. So within and it's 4 years, you're celebrating your four-year anniversary right now.
10th.
No, yours with Veritiv.
No, I've actually been here for 11 years.
Oh, 11 years.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh, yeah. I had that completely wrong.
No, that's okay. I happened to join from Deloitte right as they were Exploring International Paper owned Expedex. Expedex was a distribution arm of International Paper, and Unisource was owned by Bain and had come from Georgia Pacific too. Okay. And so right as I was coming over from Deloitte, I got an email from my new boss saying, "Hey, I just want to make sure you saw this announcement. Let me know if you have any questions." And it was International Paper announcing the potential exploration and merge. That was a year before Veritiv formed that I came in, and a pretty transformational time for the business. And exciting time. And it was one of those I got that note and I didn't know that during the interview process. So it's one of those moments where I took a step back and thought, man, what am I jumping into?
You're jumping on a rocket ship.
And yeah, that's right. And that's exactly what it's been since then. I told you earlier that I got out of the Navy before we had kids, so we didn't have to move a family around. And in those 11 years, I've actually moved them from Cincinnati to Denver, from Denver to Northern California, and most recently back in 2020, from Northern California here to Atlanta. So I guess the joke's on us.
Yeah, and that was my mix-up for timing. I thought your move to here coincided with when you started.
Yeah. Been here for 4 years. Been here in Atlanta, our headquarters, for 4 years.
Well, goodness, man. In that 10-year span of time, could you tell us a story or an example of just, I don't know, something dramatic that either you personally or Veritiv has just navigated and overcame? Maybe it was a challenge, or maybe it was just a really big victory, or a really just big moment of realization of, oh gosh, we can do things this way. This helps our clients and our customers.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say there's been several of those moments, right? Putting two companies together is a big ordeal. Putting two big, large, multi-billion-dollar companies together and doing it the way that we did, which was launching into an IPO at the time as well, was a lot of doing. It took multiple years to get through that. So I would say there was the stabilization period of the first several years of our existence was just figuring out, okay, how do we continue to provide excellent service and do it in an efficient way, and then find the opportunities to really zip the business together. And then we came into our optimization period, which really, I would say, as I was moving here, was really the offset into that officially, as we were optimizing both our network and optimizing more of our solutions. And now we're really in this transformational acceleration phase. We were just bought back in December by a private equity company, Clayton, Dublier and Rice, CD&R. So that's been another adjustment for us. But quite frankly, it's a really exciting one because we've got a lot of great opportunity within our industry to help leverage that. And we see this as an opportunity to fuel that growth and fuel that transformational growth that we're really excited about. And it's been a lot of fun throughout all of that. Some of the challenges are just managing the people and managing the change, right? As human beings, we're very resistant to change. Biologically,
yes, we are.
Biologically,
yes, guilty on the change.
And one thing I've found, and one thing I'm really proud about, consistently our magic comes not only from our innovation and our processes and even our adoption of technology, which we're in an industry that typically is maybe a little bit slower to adopt some of that. And we're trying to really lean forward on that in every aspect of our business, both our customer facing, our internal automation efforts. But you still have people at the heart of it. It's still the people and the culture that you can bring. And culture is not just a thing you put on the wall and call it that. You're absolutely right. Culture is experiences drive beliefs, drive behaviors, and behaviors drive culture, right? That's something that's not original to me. That's something we've really ingrained in our business and in our management culture and how we think about everything we do. And so with each one of these changes, whether it's network rationalization, whether it's new services, whether it's doubling down in different value-added service areas, you still got to bring people along with you, right? And you got to lead people in and let them hire the right people in so they can take you to the next level without you telling it exactly where it has to be. So with all of that, I would say consistent. I know it's a end-around answer to your question, but to me, one of the biggest things that we've overcome is just a lot of those changes and still keeping our people and our culture at the center of what we do, to where it's only gotten better over time. We've only improved that culture. We've only improved the people as we've gone through it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're describing the challenge of growing and scaling in an industry that's always changing.
That's right. Yeah, very well said.
And in your answer, you talked about leading people and helping people just find their inner spirit. How do you personally approach mentoring and developing the next generation of leaders at Veritiv? And I don't know, with that, maybe if you've got a story you could share about it, please do. You talk about culture and you talk about it's nothing you put on a wall. It really is, it's that undefined personality of a business and how it operates. And it's typically set by leaders like yourself. So coming back around to the original question, how do you mentor?
Yeah. So leadership for me really started even before in high school. I had a great high school soccer coach who I'm dear friends with today, that just seeing examples of really strong leaders. So that's something I've gravitated to. I've found myself very fortunate to be able to work alongside, learn from leaders throughout my life, really, but certainly in the career in the Navy. You start off, you're getting a chance to lead. My first job was leading 35 to 45 sailors in a division that's on a ship that I've never been on before, and I've got to figure out my way around while they're saluting me because I'm an officer when I walk on board.
That was your first time being responsible for people?
That was, officially. Right? That was my first job. Was walk out of graduation. 2 weeks later, I'm reporting on board a ship, and I've got an assigned division, and people on the ship have to salute because you're an officer. But
35 people.
35 people was my first role.
That's a lot.
And again, what I learned from that actually was you see a lot of different leadership styles. Some people who do come in and they've walked the walk, they've seen all the experiences, and they can come in and really direct that. I saw others in my case where you're really learning why you lead. And being able to sit in all different, in the Navy, way you develop as a surface warfare officer, you really need to learn every aspect of the ship, literally every corner. So even if it's not your job, I'm spending hours at night sitting down in the engine room with the engine techs, spending in time in combat with the combat techs and all those kind of things. So you're constantly in learn mode. And you have to earn respect. You get the salute because of the rank, but you have to earn the respect, just like everybody else.
You have to earn the rank too.
That's right. And that's just,
they don't just hand those out.
That's true. But also recognizing that I'm coming into a division where I've got people who have been in from anywhere from 2 months to 18 to 20 years who are in my division. So within my area of responsibility. And so you're going to learn from every single one of those differently, but learning how to not shy away from that leadership responsibility and just defer. Mm-hmm. You have to have a presence. But you have to earn that presence. You have to be informed, and you have to always be in a listening mode. I know I'm not just dwelling on the Navy experience because that's something that's evolved through each one of my turns, whether it's with Aldi or with Deloitte, and with each one of my roles. I've been fortunate to have 8 to 9 different roles in these 11 years that I've been here with this company. And same mantra, the way I lead or mentor is by learning, by listening, and by sitting next to them, understanding what their strengths are, understanding what we're trying to do, what our common objectives are that we're trying to do, and align those across, not just within my team, but across the organization. And I've learned from people I also learned that leadership is not about a rank or a title where you sit. And there's leaders that exist at the lowest levels of any organization. And when I say lowest levels, I don't mean in a hierarchical way, but just the most decentralized places, you got leaders, and figuring out a way to incorporate that into your overall, to your point, the leadership sets the tone. We have to empower our team and enable our team to be successful. And that's really been a core part of my, leadership ethos that's really been added to and developed
that term,
over time.
Leadership ethos. That's a good term. I've never heard that term before. If that already existed before this conversation, I'd never heard it.
I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure it did because I'm not that creative. I'm sure I heard it from somewhere or read it somewhere. I read it in a book I heard.
Yeah. So 11 different positions within Veritiv.
8 to 9 different positions in the 11 years I've been there.
8 to 9 within the 11 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And just recently, I saw that you were promoted to SVP of Global Ops. What's that transition been like for you? And parlaying maybe some of the leadership challenges that have come with it and the new leadership responsibilities that have come with it.
Yeah, really fair. And yes, I've been humbled and honored to be promoted onto our senior lead team just this year. And for I told you what that encompasses. The global operations is our warehouse teams, our supply chain planning teams. The transition's been fantastic with the team because I already had my previous role. I was the vice president of supply chain and operations. So it was a lot of the same team, that it was just bringing that perspective back to the senior lead team and as an individual role that could be a perspective within that, a voice within that team. But what I love about the senior lead team is that we're all wearing business owner hats, right? It's not, I'm there to represent supply chain and operations, but at the same time, we are all business owners that are challenging each other and disagreeing with each other, but then ultimately aligning and walking out of that with clear direction of what we're trying to do. And that's a constant evolution and aim that we're going for. I don't remember if I answered your original question. I might have gotten a little off track there, but
no, you didn't at all. It was about your 8 or 9 positions.
The transition. And I've been really honored within each of those roles in different locations. It hasn't just been, as I mentioned, staying in the same location and having different roles. It's been moving around, and so the opportunity to get to know people across the business. So
and it also sounds like getting to know people across the business, but really getting to know the business.
That's right, exactly. As you're learning the business and you're learning the people, so that you're not just picking up a phone or reading an email and it's a nameless person. It's somebody who I'd likely have interacted with or at least know. And that's also been a part of my journey is I often pick up the phone. I'm a strong believer that if you're already 2 emails into an exchange and you haven't reached a resolution, pick up the phone and talk to somebody, and it usually gets there faster. So
I would share that philosophy too. I feel like I play ping pong email.
That's right.
All the time.
You can streamline the solution if you just pick up the phone and get to know somebody and understand what they're saying. Cause oftentimes anybody can talk past each other in an email. So
we'll get to know somebody, but also to your point, you can probably relate to that part of the business that they're a part of, or individually, you might get to learn something new.
That's right. And one thing I found is that, and again, none of this is groundbreaking, but there's maybe natural subconscious barriers that come up, right? When you're oh gosh, I'm assuming his title's this. They think that they can just tell you what to do. They don't understand. Picking up the phone and having a quick conversation, you cut through so much of that within 3 minutes of a conversation. And again,
there's no substitute for what we're doing right now.
That's right.
Talking.
That's right. Live communication.
I'm a firm believer of that. Is there a story you could share about a particular difficult decision that you've had to make in your 11 years with a company?
There's been plenty of difficult decisions, and some of them have come with, you have to make tough people challenges. I talked about some of that rationalization that we did across our network, and you have to look at your talent across the board. And sometimes you got to make tough decisions about who is going to carry a position going forward. And for me, being able to look at it first objectively as possible, first and foremost, as objectively as possible, with as much data to inform those decisions as you make them, and then having the courage and the courage to move forward with that. And I would say 98% of the time, it's usually been, most of those decisions have, even if they've been tough, they've worked out better for both sides, right? At the time, it either gave them an opportunity to go do something different that was bet more in line with their passions, and or we learned from it and learned along the way.
Yeah. So one of the other questions I had, it was about your Navy background, transition to corporate life. I think you answered it a little bit, but could you tell us a little bit more about how your experiences in the Navy helped shape your approach, not just to leadership, but your day-to-day?
Sure. Yeah, I think in fact, we just have a senior vice president of our corporate development team, Stuart Crockford, who actually flew F-18s in the Navy. So he actually he did what I always dreamed that I was going to do.
He was Tom Cruise.
He was Maverick. But we've talked about this a little more recently too, is there is something about being in the Navy where you definitely have a say, and it's not, but there's just, this is the environment you're in and you have to make the best of whatever that is. You don't get to dictate all of the pieces around you. You have to operate and optimize within. That's definitely been one of the first things you realize. You're on a ship for 6 to 8 months of a deployment, and things break. You got to figure out how to fix them as you go.
Because it's your ship.
It's your ship. And there's things about that really carry through and have carried through in business, as well as the leadership lessons that I touched on mentioned. But just figuring out how to optimize and make the best of what you can with what you have. And then also the evolution of that has been, that I've learned through working with Veritiv and at Deloitte too, is really expanding that what's possible, right? The shift is, I didn't reach the ranks in the Navy where I was necessarily getting to dictate and say exactly what big innovative things or what things were going to go different, what we could do differently, but having the opportunity and the responsibility, quite frankly, to change the nature and the structure of what we do so that we can continue to provide great solutions for our customers for the next 10 to 15 years plus, and being able to dictate what those parameters look like. So you're not just taking and optimizing what you have, you're able to really transform what that looks like.
Yeah. You talked about something earlier when you were talking about going from the Navy to Aldi, and how you weren't sure maybe if your experience or your background is palatable. I've always thought, maybe you see this more now when you're in the job market, but I've always just thought, and I've always just understood, individuals with your background are just some of the best candidates to really just throw into any problem in industry, because there's just something to be said, especially leaving as a lieutenant, with what you have and what you've gleaned from that experience in working in the corporate sector.
I think you put it really well, Tim. That's the extension of what I was touching on, as far as you're in situations you got to figure out how to make do.
Yeah.
Is that it really is. You move ships, you move jobs within a ship. Your ship is literally moving around the world as you go. Same thing, business is always changing, right? We have to constantly adapt to, we can't just continue. It's vital and absolutely critical that we do optimize what we have, but we have to be looking around the corner a couple turns to know where the market's going and make sure we're proactively planning for that too. And that's one of the things that I am excited, and I know I've said it several times, but truly humbled by the leadership team that I'm a part of, both the team that I get to serve and who work in my organization, but also my peers around the senior lead team are just really impressive people that challenge. I believe in iron sharpening iron, and really challenge. I'm learning a ton on a daily basis from every interaction I have. And to exactly your point is figuring out how to get dropped into different situations. And that's certainly served me well so far within my career path. I
just think about the ship is just floating in the middle of the ocean. Something happens.
Yeah.
You can't always pull an easy lever to fix it.
Yeah. Fortunately, you have a lot of resources.
You only have what's on the boat.
That's right. Yeah. And listen, I've had big failures too that I've learned from just as much, and both in the Navy and since, and it's what that's taught me too is to not be afraid to fail. A lot of times I see people who are trying to make sure they're continuing to go up and up, but being self-aware enough to be able to self-assess and say, you know what, I'm not where I need to be right now, and we're not, and we need to do something different versus just, hey, we're doing fine. Let's keep moving. Let's keep going, or ignore any issues that too. So that's something that has carried forward and continues to serve us well.
You talked about your soccer coach and the influence that your soccer
Keith
coach,
Coney, great guy.
Keith Coney, and the influence he had on you. Could you share a particular story about his mentoring to you, or maybe even another mentor or role model that has had a significant and substantial impact on who Chris Martin is today? Danny,
that could be a whole separate podcast because I've, like I said, been really blessed and touched with a lot of great leaders who have become friends, mentors throughout. But we'll start with Keith Coney as the OG, if you will. I know I've said it to him in different ways, but I don't even know if he totally knows the full impact that he's had. And I guess one of the stories I'll say is that his grandfather was a huge influence in his life. And he made that real clear to us. And he always said he was coaching us to become men, not better soccer players. And which just always resonated. It was true. Everything he did, it was not just about being better on the soccer field, which was a byproduct of it, but just being better people. And he told a story. We always had our year-end banquets, and this was my sophomore year, I think. And I was always on the short side. My physical dominance and my success was never from my stature. Quite frankly, I never had the physical dominance, but
that means you always find a way.
That's it. It's scrappy. I'm on the shorter side, but he told a story about how his grandpa came to one of our games and came up and he said, "Who's that little number 4? Keith?" He said, "It's Chris Martin, Grandpa." I said, "Tell you what, if his legs were half as big as his heart, he'd be one hell of a soccer player."
Oh, that's awesome.
And so
that's a great compliment.
That's an end around. But like the fact that he thought to tell that story in a combined environment with our family too, it still sticks with me today. I mean, I won't tell you how many years away I am from that moment, but it stuck with me. And it's just the thought that it is not necessarily you've got the skills to overcome. It's how you continue to adapt those skills and what you do with it. I always tell my girls, it's not just that you have the talent, it's what do you do with the talent, or what do you, if you don't have the talent, what do you got to go do to get it? So that's a short story, I guess, of just something that's resonated with me. And I could go on for hours about multiple other people in my career and life that have, and continue to, including my current leader and current peers.
Yeah, but that's great. And you touched on something. I don't think, if I've ever acknowledged it, I don't remember it, but you said Keith tried to just coach you to be better men and not just better soccer players. Personally, this show is not about me at all, but personally, I feel like those have always been the best people in my life, the best mentors.
Yeah.
In business and elsewhere.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm really proud and have seen consistently here is that we really try to put that into practice and really developing the people. And I find my conversations, my development plan conversations with my leader are not
this is at Veritiv.
That's right. Not just about what we're doing right now, which is a key part. We got to be better. We got to deliver on this, but what do you want to do next? And for some people that is moving up, that is advancing. For other people, it's just continuing to get really good at what they do. And you got to have development thoughts to both those. And it's about seeing past just where you are today, and not just about the specific moment in time, but the full year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And so that's been, again, something that's somebody always there to lift your head up a little bit, to keep looking at the horizon versus just looking down at the ground in front of you.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love hearing that. You might have answered this next one. When you look back at your career, you include your time in the Navy, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, I'm smiling because this is something I've shared with people, whether it's peers or my teams. It really is the people. When I look back, yes, the results are critical and important for us to be able to survive. Earnings are oxygen for a business. You've got to do those things. You can't just talk about the people without having the results. But when I look back at just what I've had, I would say someday when I retire, I'm not going to remember that we hit such and such EBITDA or net income or cash flow in years X through Z. Those are all really critical things to do, right? Mm-hmm. When I look back, I know I'm going to think about the people. I'm going to think about the people that I got to work with. The Carl Burris's out in Livermore, the Josh Simmons in Midwest, the Lindsay Atkinsons, the Will Vinings. Like, it's the people that I get to work with on a regular basis and look back and say, look what we accomplished. Those were things that when we first got into that, we thought, man, how are we going to do this? Yeah. And we've come out on the other side of it. And as much as learning from it and being able to postmortem and bring along lessons learned into the next challenges, it's about looking at each other and knowing that we were in the trenches together and we got through that.
That's funny. When I think back about my career too, I feel like those best moments are really with the people that you were under fire with. To take your analogy further. Yeah. And, all the way back to my original team at Deloitte and just how close we all grew at all the different levels we were at. But we grew because we were just under so much pressure. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what that does.
That's right.
To a team. I love hearing that. And
to your point at Deloitte, Ryan Hale and Dougie Harrop are two guys that were on my first project team. They were my first project manager and team that literally to this day are still my best friends. And so I call Ryan on a regular basis. He still lives in Cincinnati. We both happen to hold our Cincinnati sports teams in high regard. So we can always talk about that. But just the first person I call and say, hey man, I'm in this challenge. But again, it's not because he's an expert in any of these areas. It's because we knew we were able to unpack the Rubik's Cube and figure things out together. And it's just somebody that you talk to and know you can do for life.
Yeah, because they've been there for that.
That's right.
And this might sound like a stupid question. You get into the Navy, you got to go through basic training.
Yes, the Navy officer program. So there's 3 ways to be commissioned as an officer. You either go through officer candidate school, and these are the primary ways. I'm sure there's other ways as well, I think through medical programs and that sort of thing. But typically to become an officer, you go through officer candidate school, which is you just come in and it's healthy enough and within the right age range can go through. Officer and a Gentleman was an officer candidate school kind of thing. You can go to the Naval Academy, or you can go to an academy, or at the West Point Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, and go through that way where school is totally paid for, but you are a cadet, you're a midshipman, you are in the military at that point. You don't necessarily have all the same, I'll say, liberties and maybe even just that liberty, the time away that you do maybe in college. The Navy ROTC program I did is the best of both worlds, in my opinion. I'm not saying that those others aren't great paths to go, but for me, it ended up being a great path to still get a college experience. But you got to wear your uniform. You're very much held to a different standard. You're getting drug tested randomly throughout the process. Like you still have a higher maybe standard than your typical student has to adhere to, both ethically and just you got to wear a uniform. You got to keep your hair short, that kind of thing. Keep your face clean shaven. So that's what I did. And what that quote unquote basic looks like is an extra week before everybody else shows up at campus. You do this intensive training that you're up early doing push-ups, you're doing the physical training, you're doing the military, learning pieces of the military too. And then throughout that program, each summer you did basically like an internship. So first summer you do a week with all the you do a full month, a week with all the warfare areas you could go into, which is flying, ships, subs, or the Marines. Then your second summer you do a tour, a whole month, basically as an enlisted sailor. So you're in the racks, you're on the hose lines, you're doing whatever that you're assigned to. You do that for a full month too. So you can really, you can have lived through that experience. And then your last summer, you are basically shadowing an officer role, whether that's in any one of those communities too. So that's the training, if you will, for becoming an officer.
So that's called the Navy Cadet Program?
Navy ROTC, so Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps.
Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps program. Where I was going with this was, as aggressive and robust as that was, you remember the people you did it with, and do you remember them?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Speaking to just going through those tumultuous circumstances, or not tumultuous, that's not tumultuous, but hard, rigorous moments in life, and the people that are to your left and your right, the impression that they make on you, and the experience, it shapes how it's imprinted on your memory.
Common experience and common work that you've gone through in that extraordinary circumstances, maybe.
Oh, that's so cool. So for you personally, getting to the end of the show here, but for you personally, what makes a bad day, what makes a great day a great day? It's business, life.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Fatherhood.
It's a great question. I'm somebody who believes that you always hear work-life balance. Oh, there's no such thing. I believe that is what you make it. And tell people great experiences and great jobs and it's not necessarily that you're walking out every day high-fiving and chest bumping everybody around you thinking, that was awesome, we did that. There are moments and seasons where you get to do that, and even days that you get to do that. And those are great. Those feel good when you win, you make a big win, you deliver something that you worked really hard on and it came to fruition, or you present a program that ends up being executed on and it goes better than you think it will, or as well as you thought it would. Those are great days to be able to do that. But for me, a great day is be able to get up and go to work with people I enjoy, that I respect, that I'm challenged by, and then come home to an amazing family of girls and hear about their day and that they're in a position to be successful. Bad days are days where you have to make maybe something you didn't see coming, or you didn't. For me, it's when I didn't anticipate something that kind of went bad. And that's where I really felt like, man, I failed the team. I feel like a big part of our role is to have the information to be able to make the right decisions at the right levels to enable our teams to be successful. And for me, a bad day is when, man, something slipped by and I should have been in a better position to observe what needed to change or what needed to be done or to enable the team better. And I failed them that way. Yeah. Or a day that I disappointed my kids. I disappointed my wife in a way that was meaningful. I wasn't able to show up to something, and not just to an event, but just to show up for them in moments.
Be the best version of yourself.
I've got 1 and almost 2 teenage daughters. And the thing that breaks my heart the most is when I realize I've said something, or they always tell me, Dad, you don't have to solve this. I just need somebody to listen. But you can,
that's hard for me to, yeah.
I'm a fixer.
Make that mistake. Yeah.
I'm a fixer. But
I think men are, right?
Yeah.
We just want to fix.
But I'm trying to learn. I'm learning a ton from my girls and being better. And I think it makes me better in work and life in general. I know it does, but it breaks my heart when I see I've shut down something inside of them. I can see it in their eyes. I can see that. And same thing at work with people. I've shut something down when they just say, okay, got it. Yeah. Those are the days where you're just like, man, I did that wrong.
Yeah, I know the feeling. You go to bed thinking about it. You wake up thinking about it.
Yeah, that's right.
But also identify with your best days too.
Yeah.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of getting something done together with somebody.
Absolutely.
And being past it and succeeding.
Yeah.
And not just the tangible success, but the relational success that comes with that. The last question, this isn't my question, I borrowed it from somewhere. And it goes like this. If heaven exists, and side note, I do believe it exists, but if heaven exists, what do you want to hear God say to you at the pearly gates?
Yeah, I also believe that it's real. And for me, it'd be a big hug. And I know that's not perfection. That's, I believe, making an impact and expanding love, his love. And I think that not necessarily just making it about me, but making it about how other people felt that love too. To me, it would center around that. But a hug and a well done would be the ultimate.
The affirmation.
That's right.
All the wondering you've been doing.
That's right.
Is it okay? Did you do it okay? Yeah. Well, I long for that too. Chris, thank you so much for answering all these questions.
Yeah, I hope it was benefit for your audience, for you. I really appreciated this conversation and dialogue because it's always fun to hear different perspectives too.
Definitely, hearing your perspective is what this one is all about. And to that point, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you or Veritiv, what would be the best way?
Absolutely. So we'll start with Veritiv. Go to veritiv.com. Visit us. There's an easy way, multiple pop-ups that'll come up to you, plenty of ways. Get in there, contact us through that. You'll get in touch with one of our top-notch sellers very quick. As far as me, I'm Chris Martin. I'm on LinkedIn. You said that. I think there'll be a post out here too, but you can get a hold of me that way through my email anytime.
Awesome. Again, from all of us here at Executive Perspective, thank you so much for coming on. And for everybody listening in, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on Executive Perspective. This show is brought to you by Cressa, the world's largest occupier-centric commercial real estate firm offering unbiased, conflict-free advice. For more information, go to cressa.com.